Hello, Copic friends. Michelle Houghton once again. I have a group of digital images that I got from Angie Blom. Now, I'm not sure I'm saying that last name right. It's Blom. She is a stamp illustrator and she has an Etsy shop for digital stamps. And this is a set of images that you might have seen earlier in the year or even in the fall, so 2020. Expressing her love of diversity, and I think these are beautiful, super fun images to color. And the set comes with a whole group of kind of paired up people, little piles of 4, lots of sentiments, the individual girls, which are super fun. And again, because it's digital, you can change and adapt that. And then I did two that eventually could become kind of slimline type images or cards. And then the other one I purchased from her is these unicorn mugs with markers hanging out of them. I mean, seriously. So I loved the idea of some long slimline, but also it's just tickled me, made me giggle. So I am not doing the unicorn today. I was going to do some skin and hair. We'll kind of see how long that takes, but I think I'm just going to focus on the skin and hair today. So I was going to do maybe this one that has all 4 of the ladies kind of tucked in and do all 4 of them differently, uniquely in the color combos. So we're going to have some light skin and a couple of mid-tone skins and then dark. And then we will also do kind of a range in the hair colors. So I have not pre-planned these again. So you're going to kind of come along for the ride here. So I'm going to start light and go darker. And I think as many of you know, lighter skin tones tend to be easier to color. The blending happens more easily. This is an E50 that's going to spit up on my paper. So I'm going to take that bottom. I literally just refilled this yesterday and obviously did a little too much ink. So I've got both caps off and I'm just going to color that way for now. There's not a whole lot of skin to hit. We've got her face and her neck. So I'll go ahead and do that full area first. So E50, and then I'm going to go up to an E21. This is one of my favorite. Now this isn't going to be super pale, but this is one of my current favorite lighter skin tones. We're going to go out across the eyes. Your eye sockets sink back into your head, so we definitely want to make sure those are darker. If you want, you can go out a little bit further under her cheekbone, so it's going to be kind of right at the corner of her lips, and I did right to the tip of that nose to give that length to her nose. On her neck, I'm going to come down both sides and go underneath the chin. Now, if you want to add a third layer, a good option is an E31. And the reason for that is, to me, that E31 has a little bit of a cooler feel to it. It's not really darker than the E21. It's just a little bit cooler. So it pushes some of those areas further back. And I think that's why I've ended up liking this combo. Now the E21 to 31, the 31 kind of blended itself in. So I don't need to do any blending there. I am going to come back with my E50. I'm going to take both caps off again, since it seems to be a little juicier than I need it to be. And I'm going to go and soften those edges so that it kind of fades in, and I do need to go over all of that light area. Now I am going to leave her without pink cheeks. I am going to kind of leave these ladies kind of all on natural. So I'm going to leave her pretty much as is. I'm going to add a little bit more on her neck. Ended up with a funny, there we go. A little better. There we go. Now, for a touch of realism, as this dries, I can come back with a BV. So on my lightest colors, my palest skin tones, this is for me going to be a BV20. I'm blowing on it, sorry. All right, so I'm going to do a BV20, just a little swipe right underneath that heavy swatch, kind of swath or wave of hair. There we go. And then we're going to go right up under her chin. Now lip color, I'm going to go natural. So for a lighter lip, I usually use a B93. If I feel like it needs a touch of shadow or darkening to it, I will use a E04. So I'm going to darken that up just a hint. E93 and E04. And I feel like, darn it, I bled. My eyes aren't doing me any good today. Here we go. There we go. Tuck that right back in. So I don't know if you saw that. I got a little bit outside the lip with the E04. So instead of using colorless blender, I actually used my lighter skin tone, that E50, and tucked that back in with that. And that works really, really well. Okay. So jumping up a notch, we're going to jump over to this little gal. This is kind of a reddish, kind of mid-tone skin. And again, I'm using my most common go-to combos. So there's hundreds of them out there. So don't let me stop you from exploring and finding more. This happens to be the one that I tend to lean toward when I'm doing a reddish undertone, kind of mid-tone skin. And you can take this one darker as well. So this is E11, and then this is E13. We can see her ears, so we want to make sure to go in on her ears. Extending that nose again. Coming out across those eyes, just like we did on the other one, even though the eyes don't have quite as much. She's still got a little bit rounder face. I love that all of these faces are slightly different as well. We can see they're all done by the same artist, but the artist has changed their shape and style and shown us that we've got this beautiful, diverse group of women. All right, neck, same thing. Again, on all of these ladies, we don't see hands, we don't see arms, so we can keep it really, really simple, which is wonderful. We can focus in on their fun outfits and their skin and hair. E15, I'm going to do just some little tiny, tiny touches of this. Kind of to push that one more level. And again, this is where you get to decide how dark that skin goes. If you'd rather keep it lighter, that's an easy place to stop with just the E11 and E13 and not take it any further. That absolutely works as well. These are smaller faces, so you don't need to do all of those levels. On this one, even though the E15 and the E13 are close, I am going to come back with my E13. I'm going to pull that E15, so I'm going all the way up into the E15 and kind of pulling out into that highlight area. And it goes a little bit further, so this skin is going to get darker. And then I'll finish off with my E11. Circling right against that edge. Now, you guys find your way on the blending portion. I tend to circle along the edge. I do a light wash back all the way into that darker color, but really light because I don't want to lose the dark. And then pull into that highlight area. You can see the difference now between her face and neck though. So I knew this is where that was going to. So it is quite a bit darker, but I love this combination. It has those kind of red, beautiful, rosy undertones to it. And I think it's a beautiful combination. So again, if we want to add those little bit of cast shadows, a little bit of realism, we're going to let that sit for just a second. So maybe we do the lips. This is what I'm actually going to start with E04. So what I think about with lips, if obviously you can always add lipstick, but lips tend to be a little bit of a pinkish version and a darker shade than what the skin tone is. So look at faces and ones that don't have makeup on it, and in general, it's that slightly darker pinkish tone of their natural skin tone. So E04 is when I pull out a ton because it has kind of that pinkish tone, even though it's in that earth tone range. For darker skin, it's what I definitely base in. On hers, I might actually just leave it with that E04, and then I might come in and touch those corners and that top lip one more time, just with the same color, because it's going to get darker. There we go. So here's the challenge. As we get darker, choosing the next color and when to jump up. I have done this color combination before, so I know my BV23 is going to work a little bit better for shadows. It's pretty dark, and if you want to tone it down, you can use like that mid-tone kind of right on top of it again. These are two of the nibs I actually probably need to consider replacing. I use these a lot, and I need the nibs to be kind of springy because I do this fine kind of tuning with the cast shadows. So that is BV23 on her skin. It's right on the edge of being too dark. So if you wanted, I'm actually going to take the E11 and I'm just going to draw right over the top of it. Sometimes that can soften that into that skin tone just a little bit. Even though it's in the dark area, sometimes bringing that light back in can help. I like that a whole lot better. So there's one kind of mid-range combination. We're going to go a little bit darker still. These two are going to be fairly similar. This is just going to be a different combination. E3s also work for this pretty well, and it actually is going to base in the E31. Now remember, as we get darker, sometimes these skin tones get harder. So give yourself some grace. I tend to start with my lightest color on skin tones, and I feel like I can get them to blend more smoothly when I do that. And so that is why I start with that lightest tone and get kind of that base color. E33 will map out that shape across her eyes. Now she's got a straightforward and we see her nose. I'm going to go to one side of her nose. It's kind of up to you if you want to try to just put a little tiny tick in on the second side. If you do, I'd encourage you not to go the full length. Sometimes that ends up looking a little odd. Right along that jawline. And then underneath the chin and down. And you can argue with the way we see the tops of her shoulders. Those may not be as dark. That's kind of up to you. I'm going to do a little tiny bit of E35. But you can see already, even though this value is going to be very similar to the second girl, we've got a very different tone. It's got almost like a more yellowish undertone to it. So each of these kind of earth tone little families, little groupings have a different undertone or feel to them. I'm going to hit that corner on the darker side. There we go. With the E35. So again, just barely need to touch this with the E33. All right. And then here we go. And then the E31. Working in across the cheeks. There we go. And then, so talking about lips, I'm going to start with the E04 again, and then I can decide here if I need to add a little more color. And I think on this one I'm going to try, this is not a combo that I've tried before. No, I don't like that idea. Change my mind on that. So one of the colors I usually use is an E09. Thinking E07 on her. This is going to go deeper red. So this is more like she's added a lip color. I don't know. This isn't, that's actually right where I'd like it. So that's E04 and E07. Oh, that's pretty. I like that too. Okay. There we go. So on the darker skin tones, again, because this isn't super dark, I'm pretty sure I can use my BV23. I'm going to go under her curls. And then I'm going to go under her chin. So all of these are getting kind of those same cast shadow areas. Works pretty good. And again, if I wanted to soften that, I could go back with that lightest color. Because this is already a little bit of a cooler earth tone, I don't know that it needs it. So for my last one, this last girl down in front, we're going to go all the way with the darkest color that I tend to use. I use this color combination quite a bit. It's the E2s. And I do want to go dark. So we're going to have a couple options here. Somehow I ended up with two two fives in my bag? No idea. So I am going to start actually with E21. This is going to literally end up disappearing. So, but when I go super dark, I find that if I start by taking away all the white, so this at this point, I can kind of pretend like, so pretend this is my paper color, right? If that makes sense. So I'm giving myself almost like if you painted a wall red, but you just put the red straight on it, what color of a wall would you end up with? Most of the time you end up with something that looks more pink than red. So this is the same effect in that I'm taking that white away because I want the underlying colors to be not bright white. I want it to be this kind of warm earth tone. So E 2-5 or 2-3, we're going to come in a little tiny bit on the second side again, just like we did above. I like, again, the variety of the shapes that she's given each of these faces. I think that is really beautiful. So fun. And they're not complex faces. That's what it's like. It's this perfect, beautiful balance of they're still simple, but just enough. So this is my E25. Now I'm almost going to completely cover up what I just did with my E23. And you're like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. The E23 kind of maps out where I want that to go. But I really want this skin tone to get considerably darker. So that was the mapping kind of piece. And you could do that, just skip the E23 and start with the E25. But for some people, that's a hard jump to make. E27 is actually my darkest. And it's going to go smaller amounts right into those darkest areas. Little tiny bit on the left side of her nose, that darker side. Right along the edge of the neck, under the chin. Okay. So hopefully, and I will brighten this up. I'm losing my light here at the apartment, but you can see it looks like almost like a topographical map in between those layers. So I'm going to start hitting rewind or reverse, E25, soften that E27, trying to use as little ink as possible and yet get it all wet again. It might come out a little bit further in some areas, and that's okay. But I love the size because it allows me to keep moving fairly quickly. E23, and it's going to go all the way across. So start at the edge and then pull all the way across that highlight area. And if you feel like, ooh, I just lost all of those highlights, I'm going to show you a little trick here. Mine got pretty dark and pretty smooth. So I am going to grab, so it's a little harder to see those lighter areas now. I am going to come back with my E21 right along the bridge of her nose. Back on that cheek, under the eye, above the cheek. There we go. Now, if you feel like it still wasn't brightening it back up, you could go all the way down to like an E50, but I'm actually pretty pleased. I can see this pretty well at this point. I still see all of that shape. I see her little cheekbones, comes a little bit darker over her eyes, which is exactly what I want. Lip color, we can do pretty much the same as what we did up here, or you could use an E09. So E04 is again the base. Just to keep it kind of changing, I'm gonna use the E09. A little bit different right at the corners of the bottom lip and across the top lip. There we go. Bottom lips kind of catch light because of the way they kind of puff out. So it usually has a little bit of a kind of oval highlight at the bottom, on the bottom lip. And then BV25 is gonna be, if I can find where I left it, it's going to be our cast shadow. So this is getting even darker because of that darker skin tone. This is going to be perfect on top of that darker E27. So I'm asking you this, do you know what would happen if I use like the BV20 or the BV23 on a skin tone this color? Think on that. So if I use, I'll give you the answer, if I use that lighter skin tone or that lighter BV on that darker earth tone, it's going to end up actually bleaching it or pushing that color. Like if I hit it with a colorless blender, you would actually get that effect where it pushes the color out in a way. So you'd literally create this like super light area instead of creating a cast shadow. So 4 beautiful skin tones. I think what we'll do is we'll split this one in 2, maybe do the hair, and we'll have time to do the clothes next time because that would be fun. Hair is going to go a lot faster than skin tones does. At least for me it does, and so we can get through those 4 skin tone or 4 hair combos and then do the clothes as well. So come back next Wednesday. We will play around with the hair and the clothes and finish the entire image up. For love you with all of my heart. Thanks for joining me today, everybody. Have a happy, colorful day.